You. Item 2 is the Memorandum of Understanding between, excuse me, the High Speed Rail Authority and the Peninsula Corridor JPB, Caltrain. Mr. Treposis, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members. Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here to present a recommendation on the MOU between the Authority and the Peninsula Joint Powers Board. As you know, Authority staff has been working to negotiate an updated Memorandum of Understanding to replace the existing agreements with the Peninsula Corridor Joint Powers Board. As I previously presented to the Authority, the updated agreement is necessary to reflect current policies defined in the revised business plan, the 9-party MOU led by MTC, and the high-speed rail early investment strategy. I'm pleased to report that we've completed a revised document that meets the goals we set out to achieve last year and solidifies the relationship between the Authority and the Joint Powers Board. The revised agreement will facilitate the development of the early investment projects, specifically the Caltrain electrification project and the advanced train signal system, as well as pave the way for future high-speed service in the Peninsula Corridor. I'd like to once again, as was noted previously, I'd like to acknowledge the leadership and hard work of our lead counsel, Tom Fallenz, Joint Powers lead counsel, David Miller, Project Chief Marion Lee, Government Affairs Director, Seamus Patrick Murphy, and Executive Director Mike Scanlon in helping to craft this agreement. It should be noted that the updated agreement terminates the 2004 MOU and 2009 agreement and initiates project planning focused exclusively on the blended system. It directs that the blended system must be designed, constructed, and operated in a manner consistent with JPB operational requirements and with consideration of the interests of the cities served by the Caltrain system. It includes recognition that it will be necessary for the parties to negotiate one or more agreements at a future date to facilitate construction and shared use of the Peninsula Rail Corridor by the Authority in order to implement and operate the blended system. Finally, the agreement directs the Joint Powers Board and the Authority to establish an organizational framework that will incorporate procedures for the approval of both parties of the early investment projects and the blended system designs. I'm happy to report that the Peninsula Joint Powers Board staff will be recommending approval of this agreement at their board meeting tomorrow morning in San Carlos. With that, Authority staff recommends approval of the final revised MOU with Peninsula JPB. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Mr. Morales, I think you also deserve some credit for bringing this to this point, and want to thank you for that. Do you have comments you'd like to make at this point?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think what I would say about this is a triumph of common sense and practicality in implementing this program. Really moving forward the program in a way that leverages resources and demonstrates the sort of partnership that we need to have to make this program a reality across the state. Respecting the roles of this authority and of the Peninsula Authority. And I also want to stress, we'll be hearing later from Randy Rentschler of the MTC. The MTC played a critical role in coordinating this agreement. This is not just a partnership, in effect, between the authority and Caltrain. It's the 9 counties in the Bay Area who are all playing a part in this program, and that's doesn't always happen. I think is very significant as we go forward, and it does spell out also specific roles. One thing I do want to clarify: the funding is absolutely in accordance with Prop 1A and with the requirements of SB 1029. The rolling stock, for instance, will be, as spelled out in the agreement, will be purchased with local funds, not with 1A funds. Those sorts of things, we've worked through those issues to ensure that we're doing this right. And we're very pleased to present it to you today and look forward to your consideration of it.
All right. I had some comments. Do you? Yeah. I just want to echo what our CEO just said. I think this showed a high level of collaboration. I mentioned before that I traveled to this meeting today via BART and cross-platform transfer to Caltrain at Millbrae. I used the region's Clipper card, which was developed by MTC, so it was all pretty seamless. And that is what the public expects from us in terms of delivering transportation facilities to them. Similarly, I think what's been seamless here is our work with MTC and with Caltrain. Just to elaborate on something that Mr. Morales said, in order for Prop 1A funds to be used, they must be matched. MTC worked very hard to assemble a package of financing that was able to match the money that we would use from Prop 1A for this. So that completely complies with the letter and the spirit of the law to do that. Secondly, Prop 1A also has a separate batch of money apart from our bonds, which is the connectivity funds. And those funds had been held up for several years under several administrations because the Department of Finance felt that they couldn't release them when there was nothing to connect to, because there was no overall strategy or overall plan. And they've become very comfortable now that the $950 million that the voters approved as part of Prop 1A for connectivity funds now can move forward because they're part of an integrated whole comprehensive plan, which I thank my colleagues in terms of how we constructed our business plan in April of 2012. And some of those connectivity funds are being used for this project as well. So this is an example, I think, of what the public wants and expects from us, which is harmony among the transportation agencies. I mean, we do have in the Bay Area somewhat of a, I call it a transit Yugoslavia. We have 29 different agencies not always working together. MTC has to preside over all of that. But this is an example where I think people came together to discharge their public duties to make sure that we're delivering a seamless system and doing it through collaboration and cooperation. So I think it's a very good day. Vice Chair Schenk.
Are there any other?
Well, we're going to
I have Jim speak
right,
last. Okay.
great.
Well, talk about being in the lion's den. I think my past public comments have made it clear that I was skeptical of a blended system, and I've tried to keep an open mind. I've listened, I've studied, I've debated, reflected, but I fully understand and support the Caltrain electrification goals, but I can't support it at the expense of the ultimate goal of high-speed rail. I have been a supporter of high-speed rail for many decades, wrote the congressional bill on it, and so my laser goal has been high-speed rail. And I want everyone to know I have the greatest respect for my former colleague, Anna Eshoo, the legislative team that represents this area, the local leaders and the people of this area. And for that reason, I have sort of gone along up to this point so that we could work with everyone here. I have virtually boundless respect for our chairman, my other colleagues, Jim Hartnett and the others here who've worked so hard on this, the staff, your hard work. And so I've tried not to get in the way. But I owe the people of California nothing less than voting my conscience, and I hope you all accept that. This is not something that is in any way reflective of the work that you have done and your very legitimate goals here. And in fact, I hope that in the future will prove me wrong, but I'm going to vote no at this time. And I want to make sure that everyone understands that despite the vote, I mean, we see where this is going. You know, I'm pretty good at counting votes. That once the majority has spoken, I will fully support the work and efforts to make this happen. But at this time, I will have to vote no. So I hope you all understand.
Before I turn to Mr. Hartnett, I just want to ask Council, do we need a majority of the majority today, or do we need 5 votes to pass this?
We would need 5 votes.
We would need 5 votes.
And how many do we have?
Well, so here's what I'm going to ask my colleague. Because I respect and understand her position on this, and no one has been a greater supporter of high-speed rail than Lynn Shank going back to the very beginning. I mean, this was, in some ways, in very many ways, this was her idea. And I apologize to the vice chair because I probably should have anticipated this and had this conversation with you, so that was my deficiency. But
We don't violate any of the Brown Acts.
no, but two of us can talk. We can do that.
That's good.
So I guess what I would ask, given the mathematical necessity and the fact that, and 2 facts. One is that Mr. Rossi is out of the state today. The second is that all 3 of our appointing authorities, the governor, the president pro tem, and the speaker, let's just say, have not moved with alacrity to fill the 3 open slots on this board. And so, and I know that the Caltrain board is going to meet tomorrow. I believe that if Mr. Rossi were here, we'd probably have the requisite 5 votes even without that. So what I would respectfully, most respectfully ask my colleague is if there is a way to provide a courtesy vote today, but going on the record, the minutes will reflect that had there been sufficient votes, you would have voted no. If we could move this forward, I would appreciate it, because otherwise we'll just have to come back next month and do it. Again, I'm sorry, because I should have anticipated an issue and tried to deal with this, but we are dealing with a bare quorum. So without putting you on the spot, Ms. Shank, if I could just ask you to Wait. What I was going to say is, if I could ask you to just reflect on this for a moment while I move on to Mr. Hartnett, so then we can put you on the spot in about 2 minutes.
Sure.
But look, let me just say this. We've had a lot of very positive statements this morning and so forth. I mean, this is a difficult issue, and I'm very reflective of the fact that my predecessors on this board, people like former Senator Kopp, former Judge Quentin Kopp, people like Rod Dearden, had raised many questions about this. I personally believe that we could make the blended system work. If I didn't believe that, I would not be supporting this. And I also believe that this was one of the keys to getting the legislative support that allows us to move forward with high-speed rail. And I firmly believe that were we still in the place where we were butting heads on this, I think we probably wouldn't be sitting here today. So in no way do I want to take away from my colleague's comments or her concern over the fidelity to Prop 1A that we owe the people of California to ultimately deliver the high-speed rail system. But I just would ask her to reflect a moment and see if we could get a courtesy vote today with the minutes fully reflecting her views and intentions on this. So with that, I'm going to turn to Mr. Hartnett. Yes, of course.
So I guess the question is, how many minutes do we need? How long shall I talk?
You're a former elected official. Fill up the time.
To me, this discussion is reflective of what I think is a very healthy process, and that is, we've gotten here through a very lively debate in the legislature, in our communities, tremendous discussions at the High-Speed Rail Authority board level. And we've gotten here because we worked really hard, listened to divergent views, and we revised a business plan that needed some change to reflect the realities of a statewide transportation system in which high-speed rail is necessary to be a part of and to be part of the economic drivers of our state. And I think the revised business plan reflects that, and that this MOU is a necessary and direct result of the revised business plan that has had that very lively, robust debate with not with unanimity as we move forward. In fact, I think because we heard different views, we came up with ultimately a better plan. And I think going forward, continuing to hear different views will keep us testing ourselves as we move forward to do what works, what's practical, what's legal, and what's consistent with community values. You know, this peninsula, as a number of the speakers have alluded to, is one of the economic drivers of our whole country. It is the hotbed of innovation. It leads in job creation. It leads in innovation. And the modernization of Caltrain is, of course, very important to the region. And as you heard from the speakers, I think is very important to the people who live in the region because it is supported by the major employers and the major business organizations from the entire Bay Area because they see it as really important to the quality of life, the quality of the workplace, and to our country, not just for this region. We wouldn't be here if it were not for high-speed rail. The Caltrain modernization is but a part of the entirety of high-speed rail. And the MOU is a reflection of where we are, not just on the peninsula, but where we are overall for high-speed rail. And so I look at this decision today as being really an historic landmark. It's a reflection of a tremendous amount of work and debate that's gone on for years. It's a reflection of a revised business plan that is going to serve our entire state in addition to this region for decades and generations to come. So I'm very proud to support the MOU, and I think it's very important that we keep testing ourselves along the way so that we are loyal to our obligations. You know, to me, being in these chambers is particularly poignant. In a prior century, I was sworn in these very chambers when I was first elected to office, and I've been part of extremely lively debates over the years in these chambers and others. And I couldn't be more proud to be associated with each and every member of this board, with each of the views that they have that I hope so highly respect, and all the hard work that has been undertaken by present and past board members to get us to this position. I think we're in a great position for the region and for the state to move forward, and it's with great personal pride that I am very happy to support the MOU.
I asked Mr. Hartnett to close on this, normally the prerogative of the chair, out of respect and recognition for his leadership in representing the interests of this community and also his work on this particular initiative. What I'm going to ask now is if we can take a 5-minute recess. Vice Chair Schenk and I would like to confer with our General Counsel. There'll only be 2 of us talking to the General Counsel, so there's no Brown Act issue. I just want to make that clear since we're very respectful of the public meeting laws. But if we could take a recess for about 5 minutes and then we'll reconvene. Thank you. I'll wait till I see the light. Okay. If I could ask people to take their seats. We'll be back in order. Thank you very much. After conferring with my colleague and our general counsel, I think the best course of action is that we're going to defer this item until our next board meeting, and at that point we will take it up again. I think that the record of the presentations and so forth will remain in the minutes. In fact, I'd also like to make sure that we received correspondence from a number of parties, some of which were by email and so forth. So I'd just like to make sure that they all become part of the record. But I want to thank our colleagues at Caltrain for their understanding. I'm informed by our CEO that things can proceed in terms of planning and so forth. In fact, Jeff, would you like to just comment on that for a second?
Sure, Mr. Chair. The MOU really is intended to codify the working arrangement that we have been moving forward with, consistent with the business plan as adopted by the board, consistent with SB 1029, and working with the partners, and something we probably haven't mentioned enough, which are the working with the local communities to ensure that their concerns are addressed currently and as we go forward. We will continue to move forward consistent with that, and await the action by the board when that is appropriate.
Okay. And let me just also say to my colleagues that I'm privileged to be part of a board that I think is highly collegial and highly professional. We respect each other's opinions, and we've found consensus and unanimity on a number of issues, but that doesn't mean that every issue should be decided unanimously. And I want to thank Ms. Shank for speaking her conscience and heart, and I think that's very important for all of us and for the people to understand that. So with that, I want to thank everybody who came and appeared on this issue. I assure you that your comments will be rolled over into the next meeting. Of course, you'll be free to come and speak at that meeting as well. And I want to thank Mr. Scanlon and Ms. Lee and that team for their work and their indulgence, and Mr. Miller as well. And you, Mr. Treposis, too. So